It has been over a month since the war with Iran began, and President Trump is now threatening attacks on civilian infrastructure. This comes after strikes destroyed an Iranian bridge just yesterday. CBS News Middle East contributor Courtney Kealy joins us live. Courtney, great to see you. How are the people of Iran and neighboring Gulf states feeling about this war? Many Iranians were calling for a regime change. Is this the way they wanted it to happen?
They're desperate for the regime to be overthrown. And I can talk to people that have been dealing with this since executions in the 80s and executions going on now. There's outrage and grief. There's mixed emotions. There's total repression. People can't go to the streets and in any way protest without fear of arrest, fear of torture, a fear of execution, according to human rights groups that are actually saying that executions now are continuing, some from those protests on January 8th and January 9th. Some family members still desperate to find out what happened to, some families desperate to find out what happened to their family members. And so this intense repression, this blackout on the internet, this mix of emotions, this panic and fear and trauma with airstrikes being launched and bombs being dropped, but also quiet resilience and desperation for the regime not to live on. And right now we're in the throes of the dark of war.
You're looking at photos now of just some of the devastation caused by these attacks in Iran. And I'm curious, Courtney, do Iranians see this as an opportunity to rebuild? Are they worried at all that once this war is over, it will be up to them to rebuild their country?
They're not even talking about rebuilding right now. They're just lamenting historical sites that are damaged, or a Pasteur site that was used for pharmaceuticals and research. Some of these are historic sites. There's a lot of beauty and a lot of culture in Iran that often suffers during a war, and so they're watching some of their landmarks, their cultural landmarks, being destroyed or being shattered. They have all these mosaics and these intricate mirror work that is often done, and you can see the destructions in UNESCO sites. But what really is important, I didn't mention the Gulf states. They're bearing the brunt of it. I mean, with the threat of their water not even being able to be desalinated for drinking water in places like Qatar and Bahrain. Kuwait is being hit. The Gulf states are taking this very seriously, and the Iranians are just trying to survive it, desperate for this regime change. But I will say one thing that the Iranian regime is doing is they're taunting the U.S. today, saying, and it's the Speaker of Parliament, Mohammed Khalibaf, that President Trump thought might be somebody that he could have negotiations with. And he's saying, you talk about regime change, but now you're searching for your pilot.
I want to lean into this talk about the other Gulf states, because as you said, they're bearing the brunt of this war when it comes to economically, with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and also attacks on their own soil. They didn't ask for this war, but yet they're caught in the middle of it. How do they feel about this?
Well, don't forget, there's no love lost between the Gulf states and the Iranian regime. They've suffered by being neighbors. They've suffered from being in the line of attack at different times. And so they have worked with the U.S. and President Trump has relationships with the Gulf country. Reports about a week or so ago were that Mohammed bin Salman does talk to President Trump on an almost daily basis. Now, whether that's actually happening right now and what the Gulf states are saying publicly and privately, we'll have to wait to see. They are wealthy, but they are suffering from tourism dollars. But I really have to emphasize something that is also happening. There's a new front in southern Lebanon, and that's because when the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei was killed on the first day of the war, Hezbollah started launching attacks. They weren't completely decimated, despite the Israeli attacks after October 7th. Now there is a ground invasion. Israeli reservists are being called up. Israelis are suffering from this. Lebanese are suffering from this. The Lebanese government is suffering from this. This is a whole other war front that's hurting and opening up. So there's a lot of different things at play. You have the Gulf being hurt, you have regular Iranians being hurt, you have the regime taunting and mocking and also executing their own people, and you have Lebanon, southern Lebanon, being brought in a way that was brought in the 1980s during the fight between the Israelis and Palestinians. over 1 million people have been displaced in Lebanon in the last couple of weeks.
Courtney Kealy, thank you so much for that insight.